Please welcome to the stage Don Cornwell, co-founder and CEO of Dynasty Equity, Stephen Pagliuca, senior advisor at Bain Capital Private Equity and managing general partner and co-owner of the Boston Celtics, and Chatri Sityodtong, founder, chairman, and CEO of One Championship, for a conversation with Bloomberg's Jennifer Zabasajja.
Sports, right? We have a lot to talk about. Guys, before we get into our conversation, I wanted to remind the audience that this session has a poll question if people want to get involved. And the question that we've put out to our audience is, what will emerge as the next top destination for foreign investors in terms of sports? And you can see that up here, whether that's basketball, American football, baseball, or cricket. So if anyone in here wants to get involved, please submit your answers. Does anyone here want to place their bets on what's going to win?
I say basketball.
Basketball?
Basketball.
Basketball.
Wow, in unison. I like that. Okay, let's get into this, because this session is called The Business of Sports. I think everyone knows that sports has always been a business, but when did it really turn into, I think what Don, you called it, an asset class? What was the catalyst for where we're at right now in terms of the business of sports, the industry?
I think one of the things that's happened over the last, I call it 5 years, is, I'll call it 10 years. Number one, you've had people like Steve, titans of business, investors, coming in and owning teams. I think that's turned on a light bulb for many people to say, this is something we need to pay attention to. I think the other thing that is very quiet, and I think it impacts One Championship, it will impact the NBA, it has already impacted the NFL, is you have the big tech companies coming into the sport. You've got Amazon, Apple, Google, all paying a lot of attention, paying a lot of money to be around this sport. People have realized in this crazy world that we live in, it's the only content that resonates. It's the only way you can get lots of people to gather at one time to pay attention to something. Combat sports benefits from the main tentpole events. The NBA, we're seeing it right now. People are waking up here at 3 in the morning to watch the Celtics win last night or this morning. And I think that really impacts how people think about the asset class as something that they want to be close to.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Don, because I should have said, Steve was up early this morning because the Celtics did win tonight. So I think we should all make sure. Steve, you doing okay?
Three more.
I know you said you go game by game. Can you talk about, just follow up on what Don was saying? I mean, what's your take, especially considering you are an owner not just with American basketball, but also a European football team?
Absolutely. I agree with Don. Probably in the last 10 years, a couple of things have happened. One, television revenues have exploded. Two, technology has allowed people from all over the world to view sports. And so you used to count fans in the millions, now you're counting in the tens of millions, and maybe even with the case of many football teams like Manchester United, Manchester City, you're talking about billions of fans throughout the earth. So technology has really changed that all, and it's the only place you can aggregate eyeballs. And the prices of the franchises have gone up commensurately. So that has brought in outside capital, and prices have almost never gone down of the premier sports brands, NBA, NFL, Premier League Soccer. Prices have almost never gone down, so people see it as a safe, long-term, accreting asset class, and so that's how it became an asset class.
Chatri, jump in here, because One Championship is sort of a new entrant into the business of sports. Do you think there's room for your league to create even more valuations in terms of what it is that teams and players themselves are able to make?
Yeah, definitely. If you look at the power of sports, especially at scale, when you're one of the world's largest sports properties or sports teams, they're literally, they become monopolistic, where the fandom ignites entire countries and the entire world. And how many businesses can do that, on the spot at live, at 9 p.m., per what Don was saying. But at the same time, the asset class, just does not go down, because there's a constant supply-demand imbalance. If you look at the number of billionaires and millionaires created every year, but there's only one Dallas Cowboy, there's only one Boston Celtic, there's only one championship. So that supply-demand imbalance is equivalent of people ask, why is Mona Lisa worth $2.7 billion? It's just a painting, but it's a supply-demand imbalance, just we have in fine art. But sports, if you line up all the different potential asset classes, starting off with T-bills, and you work here all the way, sports is definitely the highest performing, most resilient asset class in terms of returns on invested capital. It's compounds at 20-30% a year. Again, it's because of the scarcity value, but the long-term supply-demand imbalance of investors and buyers of these properties or these teams, coupled with the fact that there is a technological shift of Amazon now, of all these big tech players, Microsoft or Google or Facebook, understanding that sports really ignites, if you want to capture the millennial and Gen Z audience, live sports globally is the way to do it.
So have we reached peak then, or we're going to keep going?
Day one. It's literally day one. It literally is that. We see it in our numbers. I get all of our key metrics, viewership numbers, or on TV, on social, on digital, et cetera. And literally every week it's a hockey stick by country. And it's never ending because when you take a look at sports like soccer or combat sports, those scale globally. Because if you think of a matrix, okay, x-axis, y-axis, rich man, poor man, and across geographies. If you turn the volume off on combat sports, you will still be entertained and you'll know who won, who lost. Same thing with soccer. But most sports are too complicated, like tennis, 40 love, tiebreaker, American football, 3rd and 10. What does that mean? Right? So the more complicated...
Basketball is pretty easy, though.
Yes, no, exactly. That's why I say basketball is going to be there. But the global scalability of a sport is tied directly to how simple the rules are, so that people can understand it, the layperson can understand it. And again, that's why I say soccer and combat sports are going to be the biggest sports, or continue to be the biggest sports in the world. I do believe in as well in basketball. I think those three sports for sure are going to dominate next 5, 10, 15, 20 years and beyond.
How much is, Steve, players tied to teams? Because with increasing valuations, we're seeing salaries, shoot up more than I think I'll ever make in my life. But then some players don't have to necessarily be loyal to the teams, right, if they're not happy with it. Is that going into sort of your thought process as an owner in terms of how much are we investing into someone or the team itself?
Well, the NBA has a very unique relationship with the players. It's really a partnership. So the players are guaranteed around 50% of the revenues, and the owners are guaranteed around 50% of the revenues of the league. So that's why it's been such a pleasure to work with the players, because we're incented, lockstep together, and you haven't seen a strike. And the NBA players are some of the highest paid athletes in the world. So that partnership has worked very, very well. I would also go back and say that it used to be that the players were, maybe the team was paramount and the players were secondary. Now the players are entities in their own right. Yeah. And so that has also brought us parity throughout the league. And someone who plays in Oklahoma City, a smaller city, versus New York is still getting global exposure because of Twitter and Facebook and all the technology that's out there. The players can kind of take control of their own persona. And that's been great for the players as well. Income outside of the money they make, which is very substantial from the league, they're making money on shoe deals and promotional deals and commercials, as you've seen as you watch these NBA games. So it's been a really great run for NBA players and NBA owners in lockstep for the last 10 years.
Wow. And do you think that's going to continue, or is there a point where maybe, dare I say, the players have more power than the teams themselves and the owners themselves?
Well, I think it's really a shared responsibility, because fans who are loyal to the Celtics. We have a global fan base, and so they will like the Celtics probably no matter what players we have, as long as we win. And at the same time, we want to keep our great players around as long as possible. Bill Russell's a famous Celtics figure. Paul Pierce was his whole career at the Celtics.
Some Celtics fans here.
Wow,
there you go.
Celtics fans here.
Lakers fan.
But we had Shaq on the Celtics for a little bit too. So it's a balance, and so the teams are great brands in themselves, and they enhance the players, and the players enhance the team. So it's kind of a virtuous circle.
Don, I saw you nodding there. Can you jump in? What do you think?
Yeah, I love the idea that these players have, as Steve talked about, a real brand. And that allows them to be a marketing machine, which accrues back to the teams in the leagues, right? So when LeBron James is talking about Taco Tuesday, right, and that shows up on your TikTok or Instagram, your brain thinks NBA, right? And it reminds you, oh, maybe there's a game tonight, right? And I think so much of what sports is doing now is they finally figured out a way to get to where the fans are, right? For a long period of time, we as fans sat on our couch and we had to go find the game, right? We had to figure out it's on channel, whatever it is, to find the game that we wanted to watch. Now, sports leagues and teams have figured out how to get into your phone. And having a LeBron James or any star celebrity on your phone saying, oh my God, it's Taco Tuesday, I gotta go to the game now. That reminds you, I click a button, I'm in the app, and I'm watching the game. And I think it's this ecosystem of connectivity. Look, the fans have always been there. There's been, from the beginning of time, people have loved sport. And we're just now getting to a point where all that passion is actually able to be accessed by the teams, right? They are actually at a place where they can reach in a one-to-one relationship with their fans. That creates opportunities to provide a better viewing and experience with them, right? If I'm somebody that wants to consume sports 20 hours a day, it used to be I couldn't really do that other than just listening to talk radio or talking to my buddies. Now all of a sudden I can have an interaction and a relationship with the Boston Celtics that's unique. And they can, I can look at stuff all day, I can look at practice video, I can buy stuff, I can buy NFTs. I mean, there's all sorts of different things I can do. Merchandise, as we talked about before. And so it gets us super excited about what the experience is going to be like for fans and therefore for the teams and leagues going forward.
Yeah.
I was going to add that fan engagement is really the word we're looking for here, and the fans are more engaged than ever because of all these mechanisms to get into the team through Twitter and Facebook, and now sports gambling in the United States. There's a whole segment of people that are glued to the games because they want to bet on when the next shot's going to happen or who's going to have a three in the third quarter. I was watching the game last night. They have it on the screen today. I think DraftKings or someone, you can make certain bets as the game goes on, and that's again increased engagement. So all the ways the players and the teams, reach the fans and have more time and eyeballs, that really creates value for the players and for the league.
Chatri, I want you to jump in because we were talking earlier about fans, and you were recently in Colorado in the States, and you said you were pleasantly surprised.
I was shocked.
You were shocked by the fans that were out there for one. How do you think you created that ecosystem of global fandom so early on? I mean, was it based on what Steve and Don are saying?
Yeah, we were very lucky. I was just telling Don earlier too that if you chart the growth of one's viewership metrics around the world, and you chart it with the number of smart mobile devices over the last 11 years, and you chart it with social media and digital media, literally it's lockstep. We got very fortunate in that we very early on bet the whole firm on social and digital. And the world is obviously globalized more than ever before, digital economy. So you put out a piece of content, it can go viral all over the world if it's a good piece of content, if it's good action. And what was very surprising for us is, just several months ago, even before the US event, we had a Chinese athlete versus an American athlete going for the world title. We trended #1 on Twitter in the US, #1 Twitter globally, and in China we trended #1 on Weibo, Kuaishou, Douyin, which is a Facebook, Instagram, etc. I mean, it goes back to what they're talking about, with Don and Steve. It's like never before can a sports property actually ignite entire countries, on opposite sides of the planet, different cultures, different languages, but this is the power of social media, digital media, because we're finally connected at a deep level. And at the end of the day, again, as I said, combat sports is such an easy, simple thing to understand. To trend #1 the way we did is just, 1.4 billion Chinese had to, at the same time, talk about Tang Kai winning the world title, and that's, thank you. But that's the power of creating a fan engagement engine that, again, NBA or LeBron, it's the same thing. It's the same DNA. Again, we got very, very lucky.
Steve, before I get to questions, I did want to ask, because it's important to talk about the value in women's sports as well as we're talking about this. I mean, Steve, are you looking at investing in any women's leagues, women's teams? I mean, do you still see a potential growth in it?
Definitely, I see large growth in that. You know, with there's been increased interest in soccer. Has been, I think, the last valuation of the LA women's soccer team is something like around 300 million, which that would be unheard of before. That's more than some of the men's MLS franchises. So it's really growing in interest, and women are David Stern pioneered, you know, starting a women's league a long time ago, and now these things are starting to get traction, and advertisers want to advertise to a broader base, so they're advertising both in the men's game and the women's game kind of in concert. So yes, I see large growth in women's sports.
Are you potentially looking at becoming an owner in a?
I've looked at several opportunities. We can't talk about exactly what we're looking at, but I think it's an interesting area for sure.
Yeah, Don, what about you? What are you looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for everything that Steve said, if you look at the trend lines around women's sports, first of all, participation, right? There's always been that, but in terms of people viewing, right? I think we saw this with the college basketball championships, March Madness as we call it. Yeah. In basketball, the numbers were huge, and I think we also have in America sports betting legalized, and that does create another form of engagement that people are excited about. Women's sports as content. I think people look at you see the LA phenomenon. I mean, they're selling out a massive stadium on a regular basis for high ticket prices. It's become a cultural thing. And so it makes almost all the sense in the world that the gap should close in the financial outlook of these teams and leagues. I also think that as you step back for a moment, it doesn't make any sense that you've got the men's leagues that are multi-billion-dollar things and the women's leagues that don't necessarily have the support. I like the idea that now we have investment firms that are focused purely on women's sports. I think there are women's sports executives out there that have come to a place where they are driving value. It used to be that the women's sports team was sort of an add-on. Now they're separate things that are in the light of day getting their own focus and attention. I think that portends to end up with a lot of growth, and I think that's a great thing. That's what we need to have.
Yeah, and Chatri, you've been strategic too about investing and bringing in more women into one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you look at some of the biggest names in one, especially in the early days, was like Angela Lee, who is our current atomweight world champion. She literally was the face of one, or still is one of the big faces of one, or Stam Fairtex. We just want the very best martial artists on the planet, male or female, and we compensate them as such as well. It's not about saying, hey, a female should deserve less. So we're a little bit more, how can I say, progressive than other sports might be when it comes to women's pay. We actually don't, there's no distinguish between male and female. It's just about are they the best in the world? And their drawing power, obviously it matters as well. So yeah, I mean, if you ask fans around the world, who are some of the names they gravitate to, I think it's 50-50 for us, male or female.
On the whole, do you all think, because we're in Qatar, we've seen Qatar and other countries invest more in leagues and in sports, private equity, we were talking about that, getting more invested into sports. Is this on the whole good for the fans, good for the sports leagues themselves? I mean, is there a risk that this could potentially, we could lose the love of the game that some people have?
Absolutely not. It's quite the opposite. The more you have invested in the team, the more you want it to do better, the more you want it to win, the more you want it to see fans. And so that spurs everybody to wake up every day and say, how do we make it a better fan experience? How do we have more engagement? How do we offer more things to the fans to get close to the team, merchandise, experiences, different kinds of programming, different angles on television, statistics, a whole host of things. And so you see as more has been invested and the prices have gone up, you see more and more improving the product.
But not everybody is jumping in on that, Don. You're talking about
I would just say, I mean, sort of switching a little bit, 10 years ago, you saw the venture community, from an investment perspective, actually start to support sports-related technology companies. And I think if you sort of fast forward to where we are today, we have plenty of companies that are helping to improve the fan experience. For a long period of time, Silicon Valley ignored sports. Now they're not. And that's capital that's coming from the investment community into the ecosystem. So it's not just direct into teams and leagues, it's also into all the technologies that can help make it a better experience.
Chatri?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is just the very beginning. I think capital coming in, as long as it's going into the right leagues and teams and companies that they know what they're doing. Then of course, there is a risk, of course, that there are some younger companies that may or may not know what they're doing, and that is obviously a risk to the capital markets. But it's so early in the game. I just think everyone's going to win. The market is huge. There's 8 billion people. At least I'm speaking from the combat sports perspective. It's now a global duopoly with UFC a dominant share in the West, and we have the dominant share in the East. And I think there's room for a lot more people as well. I don't think that this is a zero-sum game. The market is growing tremendously. Our metrics are growing tremendously, and capital is flooding into the market. And that's why I say even basketball. I think the future of basketball is massive.
Do you think you can take the UFC on? Are you attempting to do
Well, according to Nielsen, Nielsen came out with the ratings agency for the media industry. They came out with a global industry report of the top 20 largest sports properties by viewership and engagement, and we were number 4, and I think UFC was number 9 in terms of viewership and engagement numbers. We were shocked, actually. The team internally, we knew we were growing very fast, as we keep track of every metric, but we had no idea that the scale we would hit. But again, and that's the same thing. When we went to Denver, Colorado a couple weeks ago, it was our US debut. We trended #1 on Twitter in the US, #5 globally on Twitter. Fans, it sold out. I was shocked. Genuinely, I was shocked. We put out a ticket link, an announcement, hey, May 5th, we're coming to America. Within 10 days, 70% of the tickets sold out. And then within 2 months before the event, we were completely sold out. And I was like, I can't believe we have American fans. Yes, we're on Amazon Prime, but it's still kind of surreal. We're on halfway across the planet. We're not in America. And so that was very, very surprising to me.
How are you differentiated from UFC? Are you differentiating your...
Sure. So there's a few differential. UFC is the world's largest MMA organization, so they focus only on mixed martial arts. We're the world's largest martial arts organization, which is we have MMA, we have boxing, we have kickboxing, Muay Thai, submission, grappling. So as the home of martial arts, Asia's been, the platform is bigger in that regard. But also our ethos is truly, I'm a lifelong martial artist. What I want to do is celebrate the values of martial arts. Why do millions of parents send their kids all over the world to martial arts schools? Actually, Don's kids do jiu-jitsu. It's to teach them discipline and courage and humility and honor and respect. It's not to be a thug, It's not to talk trash and talk about people's wives. Sorry. Or religions, and our hashtag is We Are One, because I genuinely want, through the power of one, through the power of our platform, to unite the world and build bridges, in the same way Qatar World Cup did. It was a phenomenal success, the greatest World Cup in history. They built bridges between all of MENA and the rest of the world, and developed deeper understanding, and hence more investment opportunities, more business, more partnerships, and the world can become one, and we can unlock all the different strengths we have, country by country or company by company.
Is this a potential partnership I'm seeing there?
Absolutely. I've actually started this year. I went to a gym near where I live, and it turns out it's an MMA gym. So I've seen this in action.
Yes.
But I've done 56 sessions in there.
Wow.
Wow. And
Awesome.
But I'm the only one that doesn't have a tattoo yet.
Oh, not yet. We'll see. Celtics win. Let's just. I think we want to go back to the poll really quick and see if you guys were right. You were all in unison, right? You said basketball.
Yeah, we said basketball.
Let's see.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
American football. Yikes. Don. Former NFL.
As the NFL, I'm the NFL alum.
Yeah.
They're doing okay. They're doing okay.
That's great. Before, in the last 30 seconds, I want to give you guys each one quick minute to talk about streaming. Not minute, sorry. A few seconds to talk about streaming and what you think that means for the future of sports. Don, maybe you can start.
Yeah, I talked about the interactivity,
yeah.
Right? That creates an ability for teams and leagues to get data about who's actually watching their sport and engaging. It also allows them to interact with them on other ways to monetize, which for all of us is a huge part of the future.
Great. Steve?
I think streaming is huge because it's really opened up the whole world to all of our sports, and now you can get Celtics games live in Australia, Asia, on the bus, on your phone, directly streamed. So I think it's going to be the next revolution, and just create more fans, and that'll build over years and years and years. So streaming's huge.
Yeah. Chatri, let's-
Yes, I have the same sentiment. Not only from a fan perspective, digital content now more than ever is truly scalable globally, but also when you take a look at like an Amazon Prime, who's our partner in the US, the amount of money they can spend on media rights versus a traditional broadcaster, let's say Fox Sports in the US or an ESPN, that are geo-locked. I mean,
Yeah.
Fox Sports serves America only. Amazon truly has many ways to monetize media rights. They can monetize through traditional ad sales, they can monetize through e-commerce, and they can monetize through subscriptions. So they have many ways to monetize. They're obviously a $1 trillion company, many geographies to monetize. So the digital players are, because they're stepping in now into sports, are going to change the game forever. It just blows my mind in terms of the amount of capital that are coming in, whether it's investors or media rights, and the digital economy allowing awesome sports properties to scale globally in terms of fandom.
Great. There's a lot to look out for. Chatri, Steve, Don, thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, and everyone watching. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.